So, the Neo Geo X never set the world on fire. I mean, I think it's great, but it really is just an expensive emulator with a joystick. I've had a lot of fun here. It's not for everybody. I love the idea. I really like the hardware, and I've already done a review on it last year. I've got no issues with my handheld. The joysticks are great, but I did find the game selection a little bit lacking, especially here in Australia, where distribution has been really limited. With the rights to manufacture the system being questioned, I'm not going to deny I was super stoked when I found this, the Neo Geo X Magic Adapter. The Neo Geo X's game cards pretty much look like SD cards. The sole method of anti-piracy before the firmware upgrade is that on the Neo Geo X cards, these two pins have been switched. It stops the computer from reading a Neo Geo X game card, and it stops the Neo Geo X from reading an SD card. This adapter essentially just allows my Neo Geo X to read a micro SD card. This is an unofficial product, and there's no way I can guarantee it'll work for you. Even the Neo Geo X has limitations on what these cards can do as well. You need to format and arrange your data and game files in a certain way. And the Neo Geo X handheld has trouble reading the card if there's more than 50 games installed on it. But one of the biggest things I was excited about when I got my Neo Geo X was being able to explore the broader Neo Geo library. Like a kid in a candy store, that's also full of video games. One thing I soon realised was that every game wasn't going to be popular enough to get an official Neo Geo release. I should probably point out, most of the games are now available through the Virtual Console. But if you've got one of these and you want to make the most out of the system, I'll be counting down my top 3 games that I played through the Magic Adapter, the games that keep me coming back to the Neo Geo X. It's got to be arcadey, a blast to pick up and play, and accessible enough for basically anyone to have fun but be challenged. The real strength in the Neo Geo library, for me anyway, is the multiplayer. But finding a game that's fun to play solo, when you're on the go, actually making me want to use this as a handheld. That's going to be important too. So one of the biggest surprises for me was Twinkle Sprites. It's really this awesome mix of puzzler and shoot 'em up. Attacking the enemies on your side of the screen in a pattern can result in you sending obstacles and missiles to your opponent's side. It takes away that reliance of power-ups and shields for a shoot 'em up. A match in Twinkle Sprites starts feeling more like a beat 'em up, but one where you can't directly punch and kick, but playing well and timing your attacks will send attacks across the screen. You can make a comeback at any time if you string some good moves together, or fail in an instant if you drop your guard. Compared to the bulk of shooters on the Neo Geo X, this game is a lot more accessible, and if you can convince someone to play it with you, it's really hard to resist just playing one more game. So, number 2 on my list has to be Windjammers, or Flying Power Disc in Japan. Sports games are just way more fun on the Neo Geo than any other system. That arcade approach to baseball, golf and basketball make them easy to pick up and play with friends, but incredibly challenging against the CPU on your own. One game I was super stoked about loading up was Windjammers. Basically, it's a frisbee game. And there's not really much more to add. It's not one of those games that you really have to overthink. The overhead view is a bit reminiscent of Pong, but with the flashy graphics, power-ups, and seeing the actual characters gives it a really good edge of competition. When it comes to playing the Neo Geo X on the go, this game is a clear winner because it's just so simple, both the graphics and the gameplay, and it's a good generic sport too. You know, try and get people who hate sports excited about a game like baseball. I mean, Neo Geo Baseball is fantastic, but Windjammers is just an easier sell. Quick, fast and addictive. It's got the best parts about an SNK sports game, without so much of the sports part.
Yeah.
I'm coming back to one of my favourite genres, the humble beat 'em up. So both Sengoku 1 and 2 are classic SNK beat 'em ups. Shallow, a little bit stylish, and some of my best memories on the Neo Geo CD. One of the games that didn't actually make it to the Neo Geo CD is the Black Sheep sequel, Sengoku 3. I don't think we can call this a legit sequel to the Sengoku series, but I'm not complaining. Noise Studio handled a lot of SNK properties in the late 90s when the money was running out. I think most famously Metal Slug 4. For such an arcade-orientated console like the Neo Geo, the lack of quality beat-em-ups really started to bother me. Games like Burning Fight, Sengoku, Robo Army, and Ninja Combat really set the tone for the beat-em-ups during the Neo Geo's heyday. Sengoku 3 steps up as one of the more fulfilling, fleshed out and really fun beat-em-ups for the system, but unfortunately developed so late into the Neo Geo's life under such unique circumstances, it never got the exposure it deserved. So by 2001, 2D was already totally outdated, and the Neo Geo itself was already a decade old. Sengoku 3 managed to take that outdated beat-em-up formula and added a significantly deeper fighting system that allowed for a multitude of moves, attacks and combos. A bit similar to what Guardian Heroes did on the Saturn. By removing a lot of the original Sengoku staples like warping to other planes of existence, transforming into other characters and picking up weapons and power-ups, Sengoku 3 feels way different to its predecessors, but it's made itself a lot more accessible for it. It had the freedom to flesh out its own story, and it's a game where mastering each of the characters' different fighting styles actually pays off. If you don't have a Neo Geo X, it's really easy picking up a lot of these titles straight through the virtual console. I can't deny it's fun to use. As a handheld, the thumbstick has been great to me. Compared to systems like the PSP and the Nintendo 3DS, the Neo Geo X is just far better suited for these arcade titles. And when I want to take it to the games room, all I need to do is plug it in, and I've got a set of fully functional joysticks to hammer home that arcade experience. Opening up that whole Neo Geo library is something I wish this handheld could have done right from the very beginning. I used to own a Neo Geo CD, and importing some of the titles could get really expensive. To a lot of people, it probably sounds really stupid selling an actual, official Neo Geo CD and just holding onto my glorified emulator. But seriously, I've had a lot more use out of this thing, and if a collector was able to add my Neo Geo CD to their collection, I don't see the damage. If you really like these Neo Geo games and you can find the system at a price that's reasonable for you, don't get too bogged down by the critics saying the colours are a bit washed out or the sound's a bit dull. These are games from the 90s, and if you prefer playing your games through a virtual console or an SNK compilation, then that's fantastic too. If you do want to learn more about the Neo Geo X or the Magic Adapter, check out the links in the description to go to my website. And thanks for tuning in.